They look like sparkling water, but they're laced with THC.
We have customers coming in who aren't even searching for alcohol.
Now, Kansas leaders are cracking down. Could your favorite seltzer soon be illegal? That's where we start this morning. You're taking a look inside Kansas politics. Welcome in. I'm Rebecca Chung.
I'm Rob Hughes. So glad you're here. Well, THC-infused drinks are gaining popularity in Kansas, but they could be banned soon.
Yeah, it's a story we first broke on 27 News. The Kansas Attorney General and the KBI cracking down on vendors selling the drinks in Kansas. They had a meeting with them this week and telling them that these drinks are illegal. But manufacturers say these drinks are made with hemp, not marijuana. That means they only have 0.3% THC, making them legal to sell.
Would be unfortunate because we never want to bring in something that we think that consumers are actually looking for and then all of a sudden tell them, sorry, they're not going to be an option anymore, and not just at our store, but you can't find them anywhere else.
These drinks are illegal. And the reason they're illegal is because the amount of THC that's in them. The amount of THC that's in these drinks is well over the 0.3% that's allowed by Kansas law. So whether they're hemp derived or not, and the packaging that I've seen doesn't have anything on it that indicates that the product is hemp derived. But that's really irrelevant because the concentration is so high.
All right, we're here now with Tim Carpenter with the Kansas Reflector. And Tim, what do you think? Is law enforcement jumping the gun on this?
I don't think so. It's their job to enforce the law, and I think the standard of the 0.3% is pretty clear to everyone if you followed the politics of this in the State House. So they need to adhere to the law and enforce this this common sense guideline in the stores. I think it's one of those. I'm a little surprised that they seem to. This is popped up right now as an issue. It seems like if this was a problem, they would have known about it beforehand if they were really keeping their eye on the ball.
Yeah, maybe more regulation surrounding these drinks is something to look at.
This could be a precursor to them more broadly attacking hemp-based products in the legislature coming up. And hemp is a plant. It's not what you get high from. It's not really the marijuana that the recreational people sell in Missouri. It's a totally different product. It's very stalky and it's like 8 feet tall. Even visually, it's a different plant. And then the chemical properties of it are quite different too.
All right.
Yeah, just definitely important to educate people about this, because you think of if you have to do drug tests for work, for example. I know it's something you certainly want to be aware of what you're drinking.
Because
that could be a problem. That could be a problem.
Right.
All right, let's move on. A surprise exit now from Kansas Governor Laura Kelly, leaving the National Governors Association.
We have Kelly joining another prominent Democrat and stepping away from the bipartisan group. And Kelly and Minnesota Governor Tim Walz are reportedly unhappy with the group's failure to push back against the Trump administration. Kelly tells our 27 News Capitol Bureau that Kansas is not benefiting enough for her to remain a member.
NGA does some very, very good things, particularly in the area of training for governors' staffs, but there also need to be a state rights advocate. And I think they've sort of fallen down on that role.
All right, so of course the governor's standing on her principles, if you will, and her values in making this move. But now, of course, we don't have representation, at least as having a governor involved in the NGA. Now, what does this mean to you, Tim, between the balance of power between states and D.C.?
Well, there's a lot to unpack there. I don't think it's really going to impact Kansas's standing in the United States in terms of federal appropriations from Congress. But you're right, she won't go to these National Governors Association meetings, of course, and be that voice for Kansas. But in 18 months or so, we're going to have a new governor. That new governor could rejoin the NGA and go to the meetings. So it might just be sort of I don't want to call it a publicity stunt, because I think it has real meaning behind it, but it just might be a way to get attention to the fact that an organization that's supposed to be bipartisan is leaning more partisan in terms of supporting President Donald Trump.
All right, and we also spoke with Secretary of State Scott Schwab this week. He was in D.C. meeting with President Trump's administration about changes to be made when it comes to filtering through voter rolls. So secretaries of state from across the country, they joined in, and they're talking about sharing federal data like the Social Security's death index and U.S. citizenship and immigration data to identify deceased voters and remove non-citizens from databases.
And they agree. It's our data. It's our job to manage these lists, and they said we are just a partner and this is an invitation. We've been asking for this type of stuff for years, and finally there's an administration in the first 4 months that's reaching out and saying, how can we help you?
And he says the Trump administration is moving quickly to address this issue. So Tim, what do you think about this move?
Well, we want the voter list to be accurate, don't we? Everybody wants that. I do think they're spending a heck of a lot of money and time to root out a 0.00001% of the registered voters there in terms of people who are not U.S. citizens, for example. So, I think using the Social Security data might help them. It makes me wonder about what the libertarians are thinking about having another gigantic national database. And what is going to happen if, for example, I get thrown out off the list due to a mistake? Mistakes are going to happen. So, we're trying to be more accurate, but sometimes when you brush with such a fine comb, it just creates more problems. The other issue is that Scott Schwab has said many times, and I believe this to be true, is that Kansas elections are safe, secure, and accurate. And what they seem to be trying to do here is placate super conservatives who think there's a lot of fraud. They can't find the fraud, but up until this most recent election, for example, President Trump said there was tons of fraud in elections, but I think since he won, maybe he kind of toned down some of that rhetoric. So I think it's fine to try to improve these voter rolls and use whatever information technology approaches you can. But there's going to be people that are concerned about the intrusion into their personal lives.
All right, Tim, thank you so much. When we come back, you're weighing in on some of those top issues in next year's election.
Yeah, where they stack up on Tim's list. We're going to be right back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
This is not a drill, Northeast Kansas. Briggs Subaru has just released the deal of the summer. 0% financing for 72 months on brand new in-stock Subaru Outbacks. That's right, 0% interest for 6 full years on the most trusted, adventure-ready SUV on the road. And here's the catch. There's only 20 Outbacks in stock and they're moving fast. No interest, no gimmicks, just unbeatable savings on the legendary Subaru reliability. Hurry to Briggs Subaru in Topeka before they're gone.
What's going on at Briggs Auto? Briggs!
Family Service and Guidance Center's annual Works of Heart fundraiser is coming up on Saturday, August 16th. Check out the fun online auction. Every time you bid, you'll be entered into a drawing for $100. You can also buy merchandise featuring our child artists' amazing artwork. Your bids will help thousands of Topekans get the mental health and substance use treatment they need when they need it. Visit fsgctopeka.com/art and place your bids today.
I was born and raised in San Diego. My love for television broadcasting started when I did the morning news announcements in high school. I started my first TV job in Yuma, Arizona after I graduated college. That's also where I met my wife. I've worked in 6 markets over my 18-year career, spanning the desert, mountains, and plains. Now we're settled here in Kansas. It's so nice to be close to family, and I also serve in the Kansas National Guard. It's an honor and a privilege to also serve our viewers as part of the Fox 43 news team.
I'm Matt Bretz. And I'm Kent Briggs. An everyday motorcyclist head out just like you, to work, to school, to see friends and family.
But unlike you, they don't have thousands of pounds of steel to protect them.
A quick lane change or left turn without checking twice can end in tragedy.
In 2023, over 6,000 motorcyclists were killed in crashes, many caused by drivers who just didn't look carefully.
Before you turn, before you switch lanes, look twice. It could save a life.
Let's all share the road this summer. Motorcyclists and their families are counting on you.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. Continuing our conversation now with Tim Carpenter with Kansas Reflector. And Tim, I'm afraid you're in the hot seat because now we're doing our rapid fire. Bill did it last week, and he was fine. Okay. So what we're doing is we're going to talk about the big issues we're going to see in the gubernatorial election next year, and we're going to have you rank them on a scale of 1 to 10. 10, big issue you think the voters will care about. 1, maybe most voters won't care about so much.
Okay.
All right. So first up, it's got to be taxes.
Taxes will be a 10 for sure. All the candidates, all the Republican candidates, all the Democrat candidates for governor are going to be talking about taxes. They're going to be bragging about their accomplishments and then perhaps about what they would do if they were in the governor's office. I think the Republicans are going to maybe talk about the idea of lowering income taxes further and maybe bragging about how they got rid of the sales tax on groceries. I think the Democrat candidates for governor are going to really emphasize the fact that the tax reform needs to be beneficial to middle-income people, lower-income people, not exactly the emphasis of the Republican governor candidates who lower taxes for everyone, but when you look at it, it's the wealthy that take the biggest chunk of that income tax benefit. So taxes is going to be a massive issue on the campaign trail in 2026.
Another big issue in Kansas is education, and we've heard a lot about that from some of the candidates that we've spoken with. So how much of an impact will this have on next year's election?
So that could be like an 8 and 9, because they'll all talk about it, and I think the Democrats will be touting their work to bolster public education and how important that is to Kansas and to communities. And they will be battle scarring each other about who's the biggest supporter of public education. Republicans, on the other hand, will be talking about choice. They'll be talking about perhaps investing in private school scholarships. And so that will be a real point of focus too. And maybe the Republicans will be far more critical of the existing K-12 educational structure that we have right now.
Let's move on. What about Medicaid expansion?
That's going to be like a 1, because if you're familiar with what the issue is, states can expand eligibility for Medicaid to lower income people health care benefits. And most states have done it. Kansas has not. The Kansas legislature is going to have to pass a law to make this change, and there is no way the Republican legislature is going to do that, particularly since the House Speaker and the Senate President are running for statewide office in 2026. It's just not going to happen. So, maybe a few Democrats are going to talk about why we should have, but it's really not going to be a key issue, I don't think.
Okay, now this one could really make or break the election. Will the Chiefs or Royals come to Kansas? Will a deal be made?
I suppose the people that really got behind it, the Senate President Ty Masterson and the House Speaker Dan Hawkins and their compadres, really pushed a package through the legislature to try to entice one of these pro teams to the Kansas side. I think really largely the Chiefs. And if they were to land the Chiefs stadium in Kansas, they could talk about it no end. They could connect with voters really easily. They could really say, this was really one of my ideas, or I really helped push this through. On the other hand, if they stay, the Chiefs and the Royals stay in Missouri, they might not talk about it so much. It'll be a lesser issue because it just didn't happen. But it's one of those things, if it does occur, they can really brag about it effectively. I think it's easy to see a TV ad about that kind of thing.
It's going to be fascinating to see what happens with that.
Yeah,
having a dome stadium, having the Chiefs in Kansas, that'd be awesome. All right, moving on, Tim. This one's interesting. As you know, Kansas is one of a small handful of states that still, marijuana is, of course, illegal in any format. What are your thoughts on that? Is it going to be the year where maybe medicinal marijuana happens?
No, and I don't think you're going to, some of the Republican candidates for governor are very fierce opponents to expanding medical and recreational marijuana. The Democrats are more tolerant of the issue and probably would vote for it because in the end it's a consumer choice. The consumer is going to have to go to a store and purchase a product, and that's independent choice. So maybe a few Democrats running for governor would lean in that direction. I just think it's a policy issue that's I think a lot of Republicans want to appear to be really strong on law enforcement, and law enforcement has a real problem with making recreational marijuana available. It's a huge mental mind reset for law enforcement communities, and a lot of people are just very leery of that. So it's not going to be an issue in the campaign. Maybe somebody talk about it, but it's not going to happen in Kansas in the near future, and so really not a relevant issue in the 2026 campaign.
Yeah, we even heard Senator Masterson say it himself that, this is something that's most likely not going to be coming up next year, even though he's running for governor. So we'll see. It is a popular issue, but probably not going to play a huge role here. Last but not least, DOGE. Will federal cuts play a role, and how much of a role in next year's gubernatorial election?
I've asked a couple of candidates for governor this question. If there's a lot of cuts in federal funding to the states, where the states run programs with federal dollars, you're running for governor at a time in which a lot of those cuts are really going to gain traction in that period. And you may have to work with less, do more with less. And I think that's a concern, but they'll worry about that once they get elected. The most important thing is to get elected, but that'll be a real issue that states might be strained financially, or there'll be a big burden placed upon them, and states might have to pony up more cash to sustain programs, you see. And so that'll be something that they will deal with, and I think these candidates would happily deal with it if the public would just elect them governor. They'll come up with an answer.
Gotcha.
All right, thanks so much, Tim. Well, up next, we're sitting down with Vicki Schmidt, Kansas Insurance Commissioner, who is now taking a stab at the governor's seat.
Her top priorities up next. We'll be right back. You're watching Inside Kansas Politics.
For Brittany, It's more than a move. It's a new city. It's a new role. It's a brand new horizon that's hers for the taking. It's more than a move, and we're more than a truck.
This is exactly how an adopted pet feels.
Hi, Steve Matukowicz, General Manager with Sharpana, and it's time to clear the shelters. Visit Helping Hands Humane Society now through August 31st and adopt a pet in need. Adoption fees will be reduced on most cats, kittens, dogs, and puppies. Let's help clear the shelters.
Join us for the 3rd annual Topeka Food Truck Festival, August 24th in Gage Park. Come out and indulge in some tasty treats from a variety of food trucks. Meet Casey Wolf. Enjoy free activities for the entire family and some great country music from Dallas Pryor and the Lazy Wayne Band. There will also be a sponsor-thon for Helping Hands Humane Society to help cover pet adoption fees. The festival is free to attend, so make plans to join us for the 3rd annual Topeka Food Truck Festival, August 24th in Gage Park.
Start your week off with a pie. Fox 43 AM Live and Perkins in Topeka are giving away a delicious pie every Monday to a lucky winner. Sign up for your chance to win at KSNT.com. Sweet Rewards Monday, sponsored by Perkins Restaurant and Bakery.
Next live, Christopher Jackson from And Just Like That, and Jackie Tone.
Still reeling from all the high fives I just unexpectedly.
Monday at 11 on 27 KSNT.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. Kansas Insurance Commissioner Vicki Schmidt is now in the race for Kansas governor, and she believes government should work for the people. And her track record as insurance commissioner will speak for itself, she says.
And I sat down with Commissioner Schmidt, who also touched on how she's going to separate herself from a crowded Republican field. She talks about her thoughts on the biggest problems facing Kansas, how she would tackle property taxes, and why she voted for the Brownback tax cuts. Joined now by Insurance Commissioner Vicki Schmidt, Republican running for governor. Commissioner, thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you, Rob. I really appreciate the opportunity.
Of course. Tell us, why are you running for governor?
Well, you know, I became a pharmacist because I wanted to help people, and that, I guess, is at the core of my being. When I ran for this office, I saw an opportunity to help more people, and I think being governor would allow me to assist more people in a bigger way. But if I'm really being honest about it, the first time I ran for public office was because I had given testimony before a legislative committee and 2 legislators actually fell asleep. And I was very irritated at that. As a taxpayer, I was well, it was just unacceptable. And so I thought I could do better, and I think that sometimes people are asleep at the government wheel right now, and I know I can do better.
Could you tell me more about that, Commissioner? Tell me what the current landscape of what you're seeing and what you can do better. I want to dive into that.
Sure. I think the first part is that government works for the people, not the other way around. And I want to make sure that the government is working for people. I have done that at the Insurance Commissioner's office. We came in, we did a top to bottom review. We looked at where we could find efficiencies and how we could do things better. And in that process, we ended up serving Kansans much better. Since I've been in office, we have returned $145 million back to Kansas families, and we've decreased the cost of doing business by over 75 million. So I think that's a great track record to run on. It's one that I'm not sure the other candidates possess, but it's my track record, and I'm ready to run on it.
And Commissioner, I did want to ask about the other candidates. As you know, it's becoming a crowded field, and in your time of public service, you've worked with several of them. How are you going to position yourself, though, and stand out? I mean, I know that others have written things. I believe one of the quotes was, "Welcome to the race, Vicki Schmidt. Never Trumpers deserve a candidate," from Jeff Collier. He had written. How are you going to establish yourself? Establishment Republican, MAGA, Never Trumper. Can you comment on that?
You know, I don't care what you call me, as long as Kansans know that I am a Republican that gets things done. And again, I have a history of doing that and the track record to prove it. And I think they have put their trust and their faith in me previously. In the last 2 statewide elections, I have garnered more votes than any other candidate, no matter what office they ran for. So I believe that the people of Kansas have spoken to my electability, and they've also spoken that they have faith in me, and they have trust in me that I can be the leader that they want me to be.
Understood. What do you think is the biggest problem facing Kansas right now?
Well, I think it's we don't serve Kansans like we should. I think that there are many issues. Probably starts with the budget and how we can we have to manage our budget right. But there are so many issues that, and I'm sure you'll ask about a few more of them. But there are so many issues. But I really want to make sure that government serves Kansans and not the other way around. And I think the governor needs to take care of all Kansans and do the best job they can. And again, I think I have the track record that proves I've been taking care of people.
Well said. Yeah, let's get into some of those issues, Commissioner. Let's start off with property taxes. We hear about this all the time. Of course, we heard about it during this last session. We'll hear about it in the next one. What is your stance on property taxes, and how would you lower them for Kansans is what we're hearing people want done?
Well, I'd like to say that I believe I'm the only candidate running that has actually appealed her property taxes twice. And the first time I went in with big poster boards, pictures of all my neighbors' houses, and all of the documentation and things. The second time it was during COVID, so it was a little bit different. But I would say, first of all, that appeal process is not what it should be, and we need to fix that so that people can appeal their appraisals. You know, the budget has to be taken care of, and has to be, you have to make sure that you are being efficient in your operation so that you have the funds to be able to lower Kansas property taxes. And I know it is a huge issue, and it is one that should be addressed.
Commissioner, this is old news, but we all hear about the round-back tax cuts, of course,
sure.
and during your vote at that time. Just want to make sure there's no misunderstandings or misinformation out there, and just want to get that out there to the voters. Just your thoughts on that, if the opponents might bring that up. Just want to give you the floor on that one.
Oh. I'm sure it will come up multiple times. Yeah. You know, when we were considering that legislation when I was in the Senate, the goal of it was to get it to the conference committee, and in order to get to where you have three people, three from the House and three from the Senate negotiating a better bill, and that's the way the process usually works, and that's how you get it to the conference committee. I made the mistake that day of trusting the process, that that's what we were going to do because that's what we had been told we were going to do. And then some political games happened, and the bill did not go through the conference committee, and we ended up with the tax cut that was not sustainable in any way. I did vote to repeal that tax. I'm very proud of that vote, but I regret that I trusted the process that day. And you know, it taught me a lot about trusting people and trusting processes from that point on in my career.
And we have more from that interview after the break.
And we'll be right back. You are watching Inside Kansas Politics.
Hi, I'm Bob Goodall from Kansas Furniture Mart. If you have a hard time making up your mind, worry no more. Kansas Furniture Mart offers a 60-day happiness guarantee. No matter the reason, we will replace what you bought till you are happy.
This is not a drill, Northeast Kansas. Briggs Subaru has just released the deal of the summer. 0% financing for 72 months on brand new in-stock Subaru Outbacks. That's right, 0% interest for 6 full years on the most trusted, adventure-ready SUV on the road. And here's the catch. There's only 20 Outbacks in stock and they're moving fast. No interest, no gimmicks, just unbeatable savings on the legendary Subaru reliability. Hurry to Briggs Subaru in Topeka before they're gone.
What's going on at Briggs Auto? Briggs!
What if protecting penguins could help us save pumas? I'm National Geographic explorer Pablo Garcia Borboroglu, and that's exactly what I do. Penguins are a keystone species. When we protect them, we save so many other animals in the sea and on land. National Geographic Society celebrates all of its global explorers who are inspiring us to protect marine species like penguins.
How do you want to spend summer? I got an idea. Are you all ready? This is your unwind time.
Oh my God, yes.
Whatever, Jimmy. Everyone's a winner here. Kelly Clarkson, I love you.
Spend summer right here with the Kelly Clarkson Show.
Oh my God.
Weekdays at 3 on 27 KSNT.
Hi, Hi, I'm Bob Goodall from Kansas Furniture Mart. If you struggle getting out of your recliner, come to Kansas Furniture Mart for the largest selection of lift chairs. Come to Kansas Furniture Mart and let us help you get a lift up.
Welcome back to Inside Kansas Politics. We continue our discussion with Kansas Insurance Commissioner Vicki Schmidt, who's asking for your vote to become our next governor.
And Commissioner Schmidt now explains her stance on education. She talks about abortion, business investment in Kansas, and then ends with a final pitch to Kansans on why she is the best candidate for the job. Let's move on. Let's talk about education. We've had other candidates talk about it a lot. They're not satisfied with the results we're seeing from our students in the state. How are you going to improve education, and what are your thoughts on it in the state, and what would you do as governor?
I am a product of public education. I grew up in Wichita, and I went to South High School, met my husband there. I went to the University of Kansas for my pharmacy degree. I am a product of public education. I'm a fifth-generation Kansan, but I'm a first-generation college graduate. And I know that the education that I received in the public system is exactly what I needed. And I wouldn't be sitting here with you today had I not received such a great education. I believe that, you know, people do have choices in other ways to go, but I don't support vouchers, and I also believe that I want to have the dollars not go into the courtroom, but go into the classroom.
Well, so let's talk about a couple other issues. What is your stance on abortion, Commissioner?
Well, the Supreme Court ruled that that issue came back to the states. You know, I am now an insurance commissioner with states' rights, and so that's where that has stood. I do not believe in abortion on demand like some in the far left, but I do believe in reasonable exceptions, and that is what the voters of Kansas said in the last vote that we had on the constitutional amendment. I believe that the majority of Kansans are right with me.
I want to talk real quick about business investment. Of course, the Panasonic plant in DeSoto has been the talk of the town. What are your thoughts on that? Is it a good investment? Now there's concerns that the taxpayers are going to have to foot more of the bill than they would like. What is your thoughts on that as we look towards the future and what it means for Kansas?
You know, I was not in the legislature when that came up, so I didn't have a chance to vote for or against it. I do believe that there are tools in the toolbox that we need to use, but I also know that they have to have guardrails on them, and people have to be sure that the investments that we're making are going to return investments back to the state, back to our economy, back to things like that. But I also would like to focus on what our small town opportunities to expand and to have other economic opportunities in them, not just in the big ones, but in the small towns and in the marketplaces there.
We got a couple minutes left, Commissioner, and a couple more things I wanted to get to. However, I just wanted to open the floor to you real quick. As far as your platform, what you're running on, what you're going to tell Kansans as you go around the state over the next year, what would you like them to know, and why should they vote for you?
Well, I would hope they would know that I'm hardworking. I'm a person of my word. They can put their faith in me and trust me. I believe that we need a leader that people can trust. I think I'm tried and tested in that. I would go back to the job that I've done at the Insurance Commissioner's office. You know, returning $145 million to Kansas residents, to Kansas families, and also cutting the cost of doing business by $75 million. There's not another candidate in the race that has that kind of a track record to run on.
Well said, Commissioner. And any other major issues I missed that you wanted to hit on? I know we didn't hit on all of them. We only have a limited amount of time, but I do want to give you the floor if there's anything else you'd like to briefly touch on real quick.
You know, I think we'll probably see each other again, and we'll probably get into a whole bunch of other ones. But I really do appreciate the time, and I appreciate you doing this for the candidates and letting us have our time to speak to the public. Our pleasure, Commissioner. For those who want to get a hold of you, who want to find out where you're going to be next and what event you have on your calendar, how can they get hold of you or your team? You know, VickiForGovernor.com, VICKI, forgovernor.com is the website, and there's all kinds of information on there, and I hope they visit the website. Wonderful. Well, thank you, Commissioner, for your time. We appreciate it very much. And of course, well, we got a year, so we got a lot of time left, and we'll be talking to you again. Thank you. Thank you for your time. And that was your look inside Kansas politics. We'll see you next Sunday, same time, same place. Have a wonderful day.